Okay, this is for quiz number 8. Can I do that? 8. And here we're talking about mixing with delays. Delays are a lot like reverbs. Can do about the same things. The spread and tone, sustain, size, yeah, I forget which other ones I mixed. But those same sorts of ideas you can do with just individual echoes as opposed to the indiscrete washiness of a reverb. Okay, and the advantage of that, the first thing of using a delay where you wouldn't use the washiness of a reverb is it's going to take up less space in the mix. There are lots of styles of music, especially once you start getting faster and more intimate and more notes, more individual fast playing, where you're going to want more of that space in the mix, and so you might choose a delay instead of using a reverb. Okay, good. So then the first question becomes to whether or not we're going to sync the delay to the tempo. And a lot of times, well, there are reasons to do both. If you do sync it to the tempo, the kind of problem is that all your repeats are going to be lined up with other things that are playing through the song. And so therefore, the delay, in order to hear it, is going to have to be a little bit louder, right? Otherwise, it's going to sink down into the mix, right? So, right, if it is synced to the tempo, it's going to sink into the mix. Now, sometimes I like that. I feel like it makes it thicker. You're hearing the sounds again, but maybe not processing them as much, but it reinforces the rhythm. And so, yeah, if you're doing a dance track or something very regimented, click-based type song, you're probably going to want to sync most things to the tempo. But if you have an unmatched delay, now that delay is going to pop out at a much lower level, right? Because it's no longer lined up with, the next kick drum hit or the next snare drum hit, right? It's going to be off from that, and it's going to make a difference much quicker at a much lower level, and give it so it's really only working with that sound that you're trying to add delay to, and not as much of an element of the song, something like that. Okay. So, you can either do stereo delays or mono delays. If you're doing stereo delays, you should always make sure to check the mono compatibility, right? Particularly if you're doing like a spread delay, right? And I use these all the time, especially those stereo wideners or a delay, and I take the one phase and I flip the phase so that they interact and they make it sound wider than it actually is. Now the problem is when that gets when it gets collapsed to mono, they're going to cancel each other out, and you gotta check and make sure that works with the song. Sometimes I just let that go. Well, if it's in mono, then they're going to lose the stereo spread, but it's already in mono. Okay, but you don't want you don't want the vocal to go away just because it went down to mono. That would be bad. Okay, and speaking of the spread and stereo type delay, or spread and size delays, you're probably going to want those to be stereo. If you're doing something like a tone or just like an effect where you want the vocal to repeat, that might be fine in mono. But for size, for spread, for bigness, you're going to want stereo. Okay, that'll do it for quiz 8.